Startups are screwed by default. There are so many failure modes and the odds are stacked against you. It's easy to ignore the basic things that can make or break your company. One of the easiest to ignore of all is the relationship with your co-founder. Since Tim and I co-founded PostHog in 2020, we've come to realize that how we work together impacts everything. In a very real sense, we're the parents of PostHog, and when the parents don't work together well, the children are those who suffer. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the things we do to keep our co-founder relationship healthy.
Dr. Hawkins, are you ready for your first appointment?
You guys can stay, but just don't say anything, okay? Okay, thank you. Send them in. Where the hell did you just come from?
Sorry to scare you, Doc. It's my startup. We do teleportation. It works at least half the time.
What about the other half?
Legal says we can't talk about that. Look, if we wrap this up, I've got a quick call to hop on.
Why don't you sit down and have a chat? So, how can I help you today?
It's my co-founder. I just don't know why I need him. I own most of the company anyway, and we just fight all the time.
What's the point? I just don't want to work with him anymore. Well, I think I can actually see the problem here. So in my opinion, if you're going to start as a company with someone, you need to be equal partners. This was really important to us when Tim and I founded PostHog. We each took a 50-50 share in the company and we've always been paid the same. But I'm so experienced and hello, I'm the face of the company. Haven't you noticed how handsome I am? Sure. Look, unless you founded an IPO to start up before, being more experienced is a lot less useful than you imagine. For example, I'm nearly 10 years older than Tim, and that doesn't make me more qualified to run a startup by itself. In fact, I often feel I'm underperforming relative to him despite being hypothetically kind of more experienced. Think about it like this. I'd argue you should go into any co-founder relationship assuming it works. This means you could spend the next 5, 10, maybe even 20 years together working. So it's best to avoid anything at all that could cause resentment from the outset, like a lack of evenness in how you're paid or your titles. But how does that help me right now? Everything's up, revenue's up, profit's up. I would say that working and healthy aren't exactly the same thing as each other. You can't change how you started your co-founder relationship, but you can change how you work together. Healthy co-founder relationships aren't set and forget. You need to be intentional about the way you work together. Tim and I have done this by creating two things, rituals and habits. What, like a 5 a.m. celery juice? No, not like that. Let me share some examples. Our oldest habit is a doc we started 6 years ago, where we put all our thoughts and feelings each week. If something's frustrating one of us or exciting us, whatever, it's just a flag to chuck it in the doc and then we talk about it at the end of the week. Every Friday we meet for an hour and a half and we just go through everything in the doc and we just reflect on how things are feeling. This meeting is literally called The Week That Was. But we're a remote company and Teams meetings suck. Teams? Cool. Anyway, that doesn't matter. We mostly meet remotely because PostHog is a remote company too, but we take every opportunity we can to be in person and we've got rituals here as well. For example, if we're traveling together, we always stay together in an Airbnb instead of a hotel. It grounds us back in the early days of PostHog when we worked 16-hour days and pivoted numerous times. And it means we get to talk freely about problems and opportunities instead of stewing on things in isolation. All I'm hearing is a bunch of problems I don't need to solve right now. We're not a bunch of hippies, we're a tech company that's hungry and ambitious. Why do we need all these feelings meetings anyway? Well, because relationships only work when you talk easily about how you feel, and your company only works when your co-founder relationship's healthy. It didn't come naturally at all to Tim and me at first either. Like, engineers discover feelings. We only realized how important it was when we actually saw some of our friends in the same IT batch as us working together better than we were. We've been very lucky that we learned this lesson early on, as it's made every hard decision since so much easier. Can I help you? I want an appointment. I'm afraid I'm with a client right now. That's okay, I'll stay. I'm CEO, and I've got to speak to my CTO pretty soon after this anyway. Are you guys co-founders then? Yeah, of course. When Tim and I started the company, we had the same titles as you guys. I was CEO and he was CTO. But we realized once we got going, that's not actually how we wanted to work together. But if you're not even a CEO, who even are you? We're both co-CEO. That sounds pretty small.
Look, CEO has weight. Drop the co, it's cleaner.
I'm not saying you shouldn't use the typical CEO, CTO titles or whatever makes sense for you, but don't let those titles define your relationship. A CEO is perceived as being in charge of the CTO, but do you actually want to work like this? We defaulted to these titles because of our backgrounds, but we realized we actually run the company together and our titles ought to reflect that. So how could you possibly decide who does what? Wait, what are you even doing? I'm talking to my CTO. Like I told you, you don't listen well for a therapist. Mogs. Can we make this quick? I'm juggling 3 incidents. Where are you? Look, I'm in some kind of group therapy sitch right now. It's pretty weird. Hey, you talk to him. What are you working on? I handle what's on fire. But are you good at putting out fires?
Putting out fires is important, and there are a lot of fires.
That's not what I asked though. What are you actually good at?
Product direction, but putting out fires really, because I'm the CTO and that's what matters.
Have you ever, genuine question, have you ever considered the fact that perhaps you shouldn't be the CTO in that case? This is why titles can suck, because they can put you in a box. You'd be a way more effective team if you worked on stuff that you're really, really good at and would help the company. You kind of need both.
How does that work?
Well, let me give you an example. Really early on, I did all of sales at PostHog whilst Tim was building stuff. I'm good at individual deals, like I can close one deal at a time by myself. But as soon as that started working, we knew that we wanted to scale it. And so we hired a couple of people. It became much more of a kind of systems, process, sales, data, forecasting kind of problem instead. It felt more like an engineering thing. So Tim took over sales. He was more interested in it anyway than I was at that point. And ever since, he's been more on the commercial side than I have. Since then, we review regularly what we're each working on. And we kind of ask ourselves, is this something I'm uniquely good at? And is it something that I actually want to do? We need both. It leaves us much more motivated to get the work done, and we do the work to a higher standard too.
Oh, yeah, makes sense. Thanks.
Whoa. Hang on, who's putting out the fires if you're not doing it?
You seem to care about them a lot. Maybe you should.
It's not my job, I'm CEO. My job is to be strategic.
But you're not good at that, you're good at solving problems.
You know what else I'm good at? Hanging up. That went well. Anyway, since you're so smart, how are you going to solve this? Okay, the first thing you need is shared values. Every decision is easier if you have things you both agree on. Like what? So Tim and I, for example, both value speed over perfection, individual contribution and craft, proactivity, giving people autonomy, transparency, and people being ambitious in general. And we both dislike fluffy enterprise sales BS, hypothetical plans where no one does anything, and meetings, frankly. Very early on, we decided to write these down and put them as guidance in our public handbook. You don't have to make this stuff public like we did, but just writing it down forced us to think through what we actually care about in detail. What are your values?
I want to own a Lamborghini. I would be so successful that I can fire thousands of people on a Zoom call.
Guys, I've had enough of both of you. Look, the session's over.
What did I do?
The door's behind you. Open it and get out. Okay, this is clearly wasted on those two, but hopefully you'll find this useful. When Tim and I can't agree on something, we zoom out and solve the problem in the abstract to try and find the answer. A couple of years ago, we had a team member who was really, really strong, who we both greatly valued, and he wanted to do a sabbatical and take a bunch of time off. Instead of focusing on this one person, we just asked the question in an abstracted way. Is it compatible to have extended periods of leave with the ambition level of the company being so high? And we concluded that it just wasn't. And so we said no to the decision. We felt it was a lot fairer. By solving the problem in the abstract, it took our personal feelings out of the equation. It made us better leaders. We also wrote it down, and it avoids having to revisit this in future. And it means we can be more upfront about it with people in future when they join the business. But what if I want to go on an 8-week retreat, take tons of ayahuasca and do a company naming ceremony? So there are 3 things I really want to emphasize. The first is how you start your relationship with your co-founder will come to define it. So remember, you're in control, you can design everything, talk about the things you value and the kind of company you want to build together. Don't just default into stuff, be intentional, make sure you're building it for yourselves. That's why you're in it in the first place. And second, remember to play offense. Startups are screwed by default. It's all upside, and that's the only way you'll ever win. So if all you and your co-founder do is talk through problems and issues you're having, you're never focusing on the one thing that's going to matter, how to build a product that your users want. And third, if you're thinking about going it alone, think again. Having someone else who's working on the same problem as you is really motivating. And moreover, it's a lot more fun. In 2025 at PostHog, we've had 24,000 people apply for jobs. We've interviewed nearly 2,500 of them. Of those, we've done 357 super days, which are a paid work trial, and we've hired 103 people. There are 2 things we've observed throughout all of this madness.